So good morning and welcome. I'm Jessica Colvin, Manager, Business Development and Member Services here at the Greater Kingston Chamber of Commerce. Thank you all for attending our second Ministerial Roundtable this year. These sessions are an excellent opportunity to connect with our legislators in an informal virtual roundtable setting. Today, we are very pleased to welcome Nina Tangri, Associate Minister of Small Business and Red Tape Reduction. I would also like to thank our title sponsor, Hydro One, and our partner sponsor, St. Lawrence College, for supporting today's session. Now, before we get started, just a couple of housekeeping notes. I wanted to let everyone know that we've allotted plenty of time for question and answer during the end of the discussion. I would ask that you use the chat box on the right-hand side of your screen to indicate that you have a question or type it out, and I will call on you in order during the discussion. This is your chance to share your ideas, your concerns, and your opinions. Now, before we get started, I would like to pass things over to our title sponsor. For 110 years, Hydro One has worked to energize life for people and communities, helping Ontarians live a better and brighter future. Joining us today is Daniel Levitin, Vice President and Stakeholder Relations. Please welcome Daniel.
Thank you very much, Jessica. First I'd like to acknowledge Kingston is on the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe and the Haudenosaunee. And, as the utility that serves the most small businesses in the province, I really can't think of a more appropriate speaker to invite to today's roundtable. As you know, well, if not felt it yourselves, we're living through some pretty unprecedented times right now. And over the past year and a half, small businesses has probably felt that as the tip of the spear. And that resilience and that incredible ability to work through the pandemic in whatever way you can is really critical to our recovery. The small businesses are the heart, the anchor of every community in Ontario. And we've been committed to making sure that we can do our part to advocate for you and help you through this period. At the beginning of the year, as some of you have remarked, we launched our small business pandemic relief program, which combined with all the work the government is doing on the energy assistance program, helped connect customers with several $1,000s worth of financial assistance over this stretch. And this past August, we also proposed our 5-year investment plan. And the purpose of that is to invest in renewing and replacing the grid to make sure that the power's there when and where you need it. And the focus is quite heavy on small and medium businesses in local communities. Of course, we have to balance that with affordability and something we've drawn as probably a discipline that should be very familiar to all the businesses represented here. We've been able to remove about $738 million in savings through efficiencies in our company, and over the next 5-year period, do a little bit more than that. So, with that, couldn't be more pleased to introduce Nina Tangri, Ontario's Minister of Small Business and Red Tape Reduction. Minister Tangri has represented the riding of Mississauga-Streetsville since 2018 and has been focused on economic issues since joining the government, taking on portfolios such as the Parliamentary Assistant to the Minister of Economic Development, Job Creation and Trade, before taking on the current critical role. Minister Tangri is a businesswoman herself who ran her own insurance business prior to her election. And before her election was also a dedicated volunteer serving in boards, the Credit Valley Hospital and Aaron Oak Kids. So with that, really excited to get the roundtable going, and thank you, Minister, for joining us.
Well, thank you so much, Daniel, for the kind introduction. It really is a pleasure to be with all of you today in my capacity as Associate Minister of Small Business and Red Tape Reduction. But as you mentioned, I'm a small business owner myself, so I really do know firsthand what it takes to build a business that supports your family, employs your neighbors, and sustains your community. There are countless sacrifices on the road to success, long hours, hard work, and so much invested in the present to yield returns in the future. But then you see the contribution small businesses make to Kingston and communities across the province, and you know why they do it and how it's all worth it in the end. That's why, despite the demands of a global pandemic, our government continues to work hard to help small businesses succeed, taking strategic action and making smart investments that will pay off, just as yours have. I do want to start with a big thank you to the Kingston Chamber of Commerce for everything that you're doing to advocate for your community. Small businesses are central to Ontario's economy right across our province. In 2019, small businesses accounted for 98% of the more than 400,000 businesses operating in our province, employing nearly 2.4 million people right across province-wide. But with statistics like that, it's imperative that we keep our focus on this foundational sector. I'm really looking forward to working with your organization to help guide small businesses in Kingston through this tense time in our history. Small businesses have in many ways borne the brunt of COVID-19's economic challenges. That's why our government has made the single largest investment to support small businesses in Canada. Our historic Ontario Small Business Support Grant delivered payments of $20,000 to $40,000 to more than 110,000 businesses right across the province, for about a total of about $3 billion in funding. This money went straight to small businesses here in Kingston and all over Ontario to be used in whatever way made the most sense for them. And as we've paired this funding with additional supports to help small businesses manage the demands of COVID-19, this includes a new dedicated webpage at ontario.ca/small business with information on free financial planning resources, mental health supports, where to find PPE supplies, and how to obtain local advice through Ontario's Small Business COVID-19 Recovery Network. Of course, while COVID-19 has presented many challenges, it's also presented some opportunities we want to help your businesses prepare to seize. This includes the rapid rise in online sales, which have given hope to many Main Street businesses all over the province. To help more small businesses achieve a digital transformation and serve customers effectively online, our government has invested $10 million in the Digital Main Street program for 21-22 year. This game-changing program has continued to provide digital transformation grants of $2,500, a learning program, support to create or enhance e-commerce stores through Shop Here, and digital service squads offering one-on-one assistance. Through COVID-19 remains a part of our daily lives, Ontario is making steady progress. Vaccinations are going up, and we want to thank you all for that. Cases are coming down, and employment in the province has recovered to pre-pandemic levels. Moving forward, our government, we want to do all we can to keep small businesses like yours open for business. That includes equipping you with the tools you need to keep your employees safe. It's why in the summer, we dramatically ramped up our provincial antigen screening program to provide easy access to free rapid test kits for small businesses. We've worked in partnership with the Ontario Chamber of Commerce to distribute these kits right across Ontario. The Kingston Chamber has so far distributed, I think, 57,000 rapid antigen test kits to 760 local businesses, so thank you. And we're immensely grateful to you for doing your part to help spread the word, and that means to keep people safe on their jobs. Beyond rapid testing and COVID-19 supports, our government is exploring other ways to support your businesses to rebuild, rehire, and renew their operations. The fact is that the prolonged nature and unpredictability of this pandemic have resulted in a loss of business and consumer confidence. Modernizing Ontario's regulatory system to keep pace with current challenges, however, can help more people and businesses get on track. Outdated regulations and duplicative requirements are additional burdens no business or individual needs. They don't reflect our current reality, and they waste time and money that could be better spent on rebuilding our communities and our economy. That's why just last week, I was really delighted to announce Ontario's full red tape reduction package, including a comprehensive bill called the Supporting People and Businesses Act. The initiatives in this package would reduce burdens for business and small businesses and people in forward-thinking and very responsible ways. They would promote economic stability, encourage investment, and make life easier and less costly for Ontarians, all while maintaining or improving what we collectively value: our health, our safety, and of course, our environment. In Kingston, this package will help lay the groundwork for the government to allow licensed restaurants, bars, and other hospitality businesses to create or extend their outdoor patio spaces. It would also give businesses flexibility to use virtual services in keeping with the changing, that we've seen throughout this pandemic. It's an investment in the present that would benefit our future. And as we've made clear in successive budgets, Our government will do whatever it takes to protect people's lives while supporting the growth of our economy. In my portfolio, that means sustaining and creating jobs, promoting economic development, and increasing investment in trade so that Ontario businesses can grow and our communities can thrive. Already, by lowering taxes, reducing electricity costs, and cutting red tape, our government has reduced business costs in the province by nearly $7 billion annually. And I believe that this is just the beginning. I'm confident that the support of organizations like the Kingston Chamber of Commerce will help Ontario's economy emerge from this pandemic more resilient than ever. We all have a role to play here in Kingston and across the province, and I'm eager to hear your ideas as we work today to build a brighter tomorrow together. Thank you very much, everyone.
Fabulous. Thank you so much, Nina Tangri. We really appreciate that. Okay, so now we'll begin the discussion period of today's session. Once again, I would just ask that you please use the chat box on the right-hand side of your screen to indicate if you have a question, and I will call on you in order. Or if your preference, if you don't want to be able to speak directly, you can always enter your full question into the chat as well. Okay, let me take a look here. Okay, perfect. So first question, Nina. You mentioned the Digital Main Street app, or grant, sorry. You mentioned the Digital Main Street app. How do businesses access this app, this grant? Sorry.
Sorry, take myself back off mute. So the Digital Main Street program is actually a program that was brought about pre-pandemic. And we found that it was being used from what we call the Ontario Business Improvement Association. And what they do is they're able to provide the $2,500 grant on one-on-one services. I've traveled to many parts of the province where I've spoken to many people who've utilized this, and it really has, in some cases, saved their businesses throughout the pandemic. So for that, if you go to ontario.ca/small business, you can access where to get the information on there. There is a program you have to do, I think it's before the end of the month for this next round of funding that we're putting through. So you have there's a questionnaire that you have to complete, and then someone will contact you about how to get onto the Digital Main Street program. But it's a great program, so I do encourage everyone to do that. It was initially only set up for those who were members of a business improvement association, but with this round of funding, we changed that because we felt that too many businesses were missing out. So it certainly is open to a lot more businesses now, but I encourage everyone to go onto the website and to go through quickly. You do only have a little bit of time. I think it ends at the end of this month for this round of funding. So, go onto the website, ontario.ca/small business, and that will guide you to there and to other areas of supports that we have in our government.
Fantastic. Thanks very much. So next up, we have Martin Skolnick. If you'd like to unmute yourself and ask your 2 questions.
Thank you. 2 questions. One, now that sports teams are allowed full capacity in their venues, when will restaurants, nightclubs, and bars be allowed to have their full seating capacity back? And try to please be specific, because this is killing a lot of small businesses, and we'd like to know a specific date.
So we've been monitoring the pandemics, any of the outbreaks in different areas, and now, of course, with the fully vaccinated being only allowed in restaurants, we are coming together. Each and every day we have conversations with Dr. Moore and the science table and all of us together. So I know that our next meeting collectively is coming up next Wednesday, as of now, unless it changes to be earlier. So we'll have more information at that point. We hear you. We absolutely understand that it's time that we allow more restaurants to have some more capacity, but we are monitoring the data to make sure that we haven't had any other outbreaks. I just got news today that there was an outbreak in a restaurant in Mississauga, in my riding actually. So we really do want to make sure that we keep it very safe. And, you know, we've seen that the measures that many of our small businesses have taken with PPE, with plexiglass, and just sanitizing between customers, we see that there's great steps that are being taken by all our business owners. So we want to help move this forward. It is a cautious approach, but we do want to move this forward as quickly as possible to get you fully open.
Okay, thank you. The second question is more specific to a situation that we're involved with. We have a heritage boutique hotel that we invested over $5 million in a major renovation during the pandemic, and we actually opened the hotel in a pandemic, and we've been struggling, not to say the least. But we're still open, and we're still, pleased with the product that we're providing to our community and to our customers. The question is, we haven't been able to qualify for most of the federal and provincial subsidies and grants that are out there because we were closed for the year 2019 and 2020 for our major renovation. So the comparative revenue that you're supposed to use is 2020 typically, and we were closed during that period of time. So the question is, when will the province, and I know you can't answer for the feds, but when will government take a look at these unique circumstances and give some help to? There's many small businesses that are in a similar circumstance that actually invested in their business during the pandemic, and they're being penalized, and their competition is getting full funding, and we're not. So at least, can you promise to look into these situations?
So we'll take it back. We know there was a lot of issues with some, and where, of course, I myself attended many openings just before the pandemic hit, and many of them did qualify for some of the funding because they were open for a short while at least. But if you opened throughout the pandemic, I think it disqualified you from many of them. But we will certainly look into how we can support it. There's individual businesses with different categories in different areas, so we can take a look at that. Feel free to contact our ministry office. I think the chamber has my contact details, so we'll certainly look at other ways that we can try and find some supports. But we're at this point, we are really working more on how to recover, how to get out of the pandemic, and to help businesses recover and find better ways that we can do more to get you up and running and full capacity as soon as possible.
Well, we just want to be treated equally. We're not looking for handouts or anything special. We just want to be treated equally. And it's very unfair that the government hasn't even taken the time to look at not just our situation, but many other situations that are exactly the same. And
did you go on to apply for the Ontario Small Business Grant?
Yeah, we've made a number of applications and made several pleas to various levels of government and people and individuals and through our association. And so far it's been falling on deaf ears. So.
And so the other areas like the, I know the PPE was $1,000. Those you would have still been able to qualify, and the electricity rebates and along those lines. Did you apply? And they're part of the same application, but even if you didn't qualify for the grants, you could still have qualified for those.
Yeah, we have got some nickels and dimes, but our calculation based on what we would have gotten if you could compare us to the 2019 revenue that we did have. It's a 22-year-old business, so we did have revenue in 2019. And I don't want to take up everybody's time on this, but I just wanted to make our situation clear that if we were able to use the 2019 revenue, we should have gotten $250,000 from the province and the federal government that we didn't get. And that's huge money to a small business that's struggling.
Yeah, unfortunately, I can't speak on the federal government, but I thought that you could have used the 2019 figures for that, but obviously your federal member of parliament should be able to help you there. But certainly reach out to our office, and we'll see what we can to see if there's an area where there's perhaps something missed as well.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks very much. And Martin, I'd be happy to facilitate that introduction after this webinar.
Okay, thank you.
So you can connect with their office directly. Okay, perfect. So next up, I have two questions from Bob. So I have two questions regarding very little support for foreign business from EDC. Can Ontario push this forward as it has negative effect on many exporting Ontario businesses? That's the first question.
So foreign businesses, so businesses that are not located in Ontario?
That's correct. And Bob, feel free to unmute yourself if you do need to add to that at all.
Hello, Minister, and thank you very much for doing this. Really appreciate it. This is a great idea, honestly. We should do this more often. The issue with EDC arose suddenly last year, where it's about their bonding. So on their website, they say it provides bonding support for international contracts. They don't have any bonding support. So the major insurer from New York City that provided the insurance to EDC, who provided the insurance back to the bonding company, dropped EDC because of red tape. They were so fed up and sick of the hours and hours of paper to go through to satisfy EDC lawyers that ACE INA, one of the largest insurers in the world, said, screw off, we're out of here. So they don't have a conduit. So bonding has dropped off somewhat because of the economy, but it's coming back now because of COVID. So many of our customers, municipalities, are asking for bonds. So recently we needed a small bond, 600,000, for the city of Cleveland. And what it took was unbelievable. So first of all, EDC said, we can't provide bonding support. And we pushed them and said, it's on your website. You have to provide bonding support. We're going to lose this deal for $1.5 million. So anyway, so they came back and said, okay, but you have to get an insurance company to play. Not them, we had to find. So we went to 14 different insurance companies, and they had to be a Canadian insurance company. The problem is most Canadian insurance companies are not licensed in the 50 states of the United States. Exactly. Or in other countries. So anyway, we got 14, and out of 14 companies, only one would deal with EDC because of the red tape, because they are so arduous and hard to deal with. So, and the one, luckily, Intact Insurance, had an American counterpart. So you would not believe how hard it was, but it also cost us $38,000 US to make this happen so we could close our deal. And it took 5 months of time. We're just lucky that Cleveland didn't say, go away, we're out of here. That is outrageous. And Ontario businesses across the province are being dropped because they don't have bonding support from EDC. So I honestly think this is something your office could put great pressure on, because it's especially hurting the manufacturers of Ontario.
Well, thank you, Bob. And that's great information. So I come from the insurance industry, so bonds something that I used to do back in the day. And yeah, it's difficult to get at the best of times for a local Ontario company, for the local economy, but to be able, look, we've got world-class companies here in Ontario, and we should be able to be out there globally, selling our products, providing those services, building, whatever it is, our infrastructure is the best in the world. And when we have something like this, it just hinders our businesses. It's frustrating, and to say the least, and expensive and time consuming. So it is an area, if EDC did provide those bonds and for some reason were dropped by the carrier that they had in the past, they should have themselves diligently looked for another carrier. I mean, there are, I've dealt with companies like Lloyd's, for example, because they're global, that they often step up and do where other insurers can't. But you shouldn't have to be jumping hoops to do that when EDC is supposed to help provide that. So I'm going to reach out to them. It is more federal. It's not us, because but that doesn't mean that we can't have that conversation and find a way for them. And if you don't mind, after this, Jessica, if you can give me the name of the carrier, and I will propose that to them. And if they were able to provide that for you, maybe that's who they should be reaching out to, and to get them on board, so that others, or if you for the next time, don't have to go through that ever again. It's ridiculous. You shouldn't have to. Insurance has been very difficult, not just throughout the pandemic. I mean, we always have these cycles in the market where what we call a hard market, where it's really hard to get insurance. And then we have a soft market where everybody wants you, and they all providing the service and they want everybody to come. But throughout now with the pandemic, with logistics alone, trying to get back and forth across the borders it's been very difficult. And a lot of insurance companies have just dropped their clients. They've just said, you know, we're not interested in that business at this moment, and leaving, you know, everybody, especially businesses, scrambling to try and find other carriers to take them on. And that in of itself like hinders our economy, because if you're not doing the job that you know best, then you don't have the income, you're not paying your taxes, and that hurts our economies, right? So there's so much more that we need to do. But thank you for bringing that to my attention, and I will certainly follow through with that.
Right, and the other place we need help, Minister, and I hate to bring federal projects, but you have to get everybody on board, right? Like I heard them say on CBC this morning, we need the Army, Navy, and the Air Force to fight this COVID. Everybody has to be on board. And so we have an ongoing fight with Transport Canada that's become fairly public here in Kingston. So transport, we run a marina and a boat building business, and we're blessed with lots of business. Thank goodness for that. So the issue is that Transport Canada, our water lots that we operate on are Transport Canada water lots. And out of the blue, last April, they told us, oh, we're increasing your water lot rate in your lease. The lease was up for re-signing. And over the last 28 years, the lease had gone up approximately 2 to 2.5% per year, somewhat in line with inflation. They came back with a new lease and they wanted 744% increase over 3 years. And then the plan was after that, 3,000% increase over the following 5 years. And it basically, we'll have to move because we won't be able to afford the rates. Can you imagine adding that kind of cost to a small business that's competing in the world market? It's outrageous. So I would really hope that I can send you all my information on this, that we could get a letter from your office. We've gotten a letter from Mark Gerritsen, but it is outrageous that the MOE that manages many of the Ontario water lots, the Ministry of Environment, have a deal with the Marina Association of Ontario that is very reasonable, but Transport Canada won't recognize that.
Good grief. Was there any justification? Did they provide, this is why we're increasing?
They said they did, according to Treasury Board rules, which we've argued that they're not following Treasury Board rules. If they sell, if the Government of Canada sells a piece of property, they are supposed to get an appraisal on the highest and best use of that property, and then negotiate based on that price. In the case of a rental, they're supposed to get a market value rent. Instead, these guys went and did an appraisal based on our property, which is zoned industrial, being high density residential, and the water lot being 100% clean, and it's not clean. The water lot is contaminated, and they admit that. So it's we don't want to have to go to court and spend thousands and thousands of dollars. It's outrageous. Government is supposed to be helping business, right? We employ 75 people here in Kingston, and 20 in our place down in the States. And like, it's like they're driving us out. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, it's almost as if they want you to leave so they can utilize those lands perhaps for something else. I'm just throwing that out there. Yeah, and that's appalling. But I don't know.
I have one recommendation. It's not all bad stuff I want to talk about. My one recommendation is, everybody knows we have a serious problem getting technical tradespeople for work. We have had new jobs posted for over a year, and we've hired 2 people. That's all we've hired in a year, and we could take 10 to 15, right? That's how many jobs we have available. Our workload is very high, and it keeps sliding. We keep getting later and later on our deliveries, which means less revenue, less taxes paid, right? So what I'm going to propose is that the province look at, and I think it would be right up your alley, and certainly get you reelected, is get the tech schools in Ontario to offer free courses to qualifying young men and women to take machining, welding, all of the trades that is in such short supply. And the federal government keeps thinking immigration is going to take care of that. Well, it's not. Like, we've been lucky to hire 2 people in our design office that came from Toronto that were new immigrants to Canada. We're very lucky to have those guys, but tradespeople There are none. And every single business around us in Kingston and all over the province says the same thing.
Yeah, and yeah, I've been hearing it right across the board. I mean, labor as a whole is a shortage. It's a massive shortage, but in the technical and skilled trades, it's a real, it's a dire need. And you know, I mean, it's great to say we're going to have all the immigration. It is a part of the solution, but it's certainly not the solution. You know, we've done a lot by getting rid of the, you know, Ontario College of Trades, which was hindering more people coming into the trades than it was helping. So we have now what we call Skilled Trades Ontario, the Ministry of Labour Training and Skills Development. So if you have somebody who perhaps through the pandemic lost their job, if they want to go into second career training, there's a lot of funding for that. So a lot of them paying next to nothing to have to upgrade their skills. So one thing you could perhaps do, and we've had a lot of people try to and go through with this, is that I'm trying to get employers like yourself to work with the Skilled Trades Ontario and to say, okay, this is what I need, and I'm willing to go there, and you know, I have enough people to be able to take on an apprentice as well, have that on the job training, and help, you know, just help them guide these people right through as they're learning the skill. And they are the most, I found, and I've heard this from many businesses, they tend to be very loyal employees because you've sort of got them to that position of being a skilled trades, and they're very well paying jobs. I think that's, you know, there's a misnomer out there that if you're in the skilled trades that it's not very well paid, but it's quite the opposite, and they're great jobs and high demand. So, you know, you're not going anywhere. So we've been really encouraging. We've been in the schools, we're certainly in the colleges trying to get more women to take an interest, of course, in the skilled trades as well. So it's working, but it's going to take time by the time they get fully, you know, get their diploma or whatever. So that can take 2 to 3 years. As that's being done, and we will be having more skilled tradespeople in the meantime, but perhaps someone who had a lesser skill that you could that we could help through the second career training program. We've seen it's been a great success, and that funding is there available, and they don't have to pay anything. So someone who is working that lost their job and wants to do this, and let's face it, I think CERB is about to end sometime soon. So I hope to get more people back to work as well. It's just been, you know, I understand we needed to help people throughout the pandemic, but right now it's hindering people going back to work, and we need to get people to get back to work. There's a dire need right throughout the province, in large cities and small northern rural towns have nobody's going to live there. And then the other side of that is affordable places to live. You know, it's hard to get people to come to certain places because they just can't afford to pay the rent or anything like that. So it's you know, it's a whole a holistic approach that we have to take as government to help encourage getting more residential buildings up, but they take time. We're well on our way to doing a lot of that, but in the meantime, I think a quicker way to do that is to help people through the second career training program, if they did not have to pay for that training, and then just go to the colleges that are closest to you. Because you'll get more of the local people there, and just let them know that you have these positions. If you have 8 to 10 positions available, and go and be part of that subject and say, you know, I have these positions available. This is what I need. Who do you have that's closest to being ready to go? And I'll take them on as apprentice while they're continuing their education, and perhaps paying a little bit of their education as well. We found that that's worked really well. I did that as a scholarship program here in Mississauga in the life sciences sector because they weren't able to retain people. And together they all gave $4,000. They did one-on-one training with these students. And some of them now, because that program started 3 years ago, they're actually working in those companies full-time as great employees. And because they're from Mississauga, they stay. So it's working, but it takes time.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much, Nina. And thank you, Bob, for those questions. I would be happy to facilitate an introduction for you afterwards as well. But just in the interest of time, we should move on. So next up, I have Crystal LeClaire with 2 questions. Krista, if you want to unmute yourself.
Hi, yes, thank you so much, Associate Minister, for being here. Really appreciate it. I think we met at AMO. I was part of the TIO delegation, so some of this might be reiterated again, but thank you again for coming to Kingston and for your time. My first point was actually mentioned by Martin earlier, but I represent all of the accommodations here in Kingston. So I just wanted to take the chance to reiterate how important that issue is. It's also, not just businesses that were closed doing renovations during 2019, but any of the new businesses that opened. And often they were starting their construction prior to the pandemic and then had to stop and then finally opened delayed, and they have not qualified for many of the programs. Almost none. So if that can be something that's looked at, that would be great. I did work with Martin's business partner as well, Sean Billing, on a brief that we sent to Minister McLeod's office. So she's very aware of that specific situation as well. But just knowing that there are other businesses that are struggling in the same way because they simply don't have the comparable 2019 data that's needed. So it could be an easy fix to reach out to those specific businesses. And again, the biggest piece about that is that their competition is getting all of these other programs, and they've invested in our industry. They've chosen to invest in Kingston and invest in the sector, and they're being penalized for it. My second point was actually about insurance too. So, Bob mentioned it and brought up some great points, just flagging that, many of the accommodations that I work with saw increases in December of last year of up to 300%. So 300%, I think we lost the minister.
Let me see here.
I might just wait a second in case you can jump back on.
Yeah, it does look like she's fallen off the call here. I would just pause for a moment.
Sure.
Hi, I'm the minister's staff. I'm just going to check in and see what's going on. Please.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Okay.
I think she did. Oh, there we go.
All right. Sorry about that, Krista.
I think just because I hadn't touched my computer over the last little while, it just kicked me right out and it switched right off. So I apologize for that. Sorry.
No problem at all. Thank you so much for joining us back here. I just wanted to mention that many of the accommodation partners that I work with saw increases in December of upwards to 300% in their premiums. So I know that this can be a federal issue, but any pressure that your office and collaboration that your office can have would be fantastic. And those that didn't see, those that saw, I think it's important to note too, that those that saw increases of that size for less coverage. And then some of them just didn't get picked back up by insurance. It was really hard to find solutions for them. So because both of my points were already mentioned, I just might take the opportunity to do a quick third plug here for any strategies that your office might have about alcohol price reductions. So businesses, restaurants can really benefit from this moving forward. And that might be something that, is a red tape issue that you might be able to consider. So thank you very much for your time.
Well, thank you, Krista. Yeah, and I know with the insurance industry right throughout the pandemic, it's been very, very difficult. From a perspective of where I encouraged all people, because they weren't, for example, driving their vehicles. If you had 2 or 3 vehicles at home, 2 could be parked, 1 you're just going for grocery shopping. Let your insurance broker know, let your company know, because you will get significant refunds for that. In the beginning, they initially said, well, we can't refund because there's a regulation. Well, you know what? We stepped right in very quickly and removed that regulation so that they could send those refunds directly to people. And most of the companies stepped up and they did do that. Some just gave an ad hoc, say 10% premium refund to people, which was nice, or they did it on renewal, but I don't think it was enough. But when it comes to commercial insurance, and especially in the hospitality industry, we actually worked with the companies, especially in the restaurant sector, where we had all of the companies come together to put together a program how we could get them some insurance. And that was great. It did work. And I'm trying to work with them now to try and find ways to do that in other sectors. And there were some great tips that they were giving to a lot of the restaurant owners on how that they could improve risk management in their facilities to help reduce premiums going forward. So that was one thing that they did. as far as I know with construction especially, of course, when the pandemic first hit, we knew so little about it, so we closed everything down. But afterwards, we started allowing construction to continue, especially for residential. We needed to get that housing built. And because for the most part, of course, they're outdoors. So, we felt that the pandemic was not as, didn't spread as much outdoors. So I think that was a great way for us to continue that, which is another reason why we wanted to get the licensed patios opened and outdoors. So that is now something that if passed, the legislation that I have, those licensed patio extensions is now a permanent option. It's not just temporary for the pandemic. We got great feedback on that, and the municipalities are on board for the most part. So as long as Kingston allows that to continue, and my legislation does pass, then that is something going forward that I think will support many of our licensed restaurants, which is a great move. And I apologize. So the last part of your question was on?
Just about alcohol price reduction.
Yes. Yeah. And so, I've been traveling throughout this, the province over the last couple of months and talking to everything from wineries to cider breweries to beer, and the way that it's sold or not able to be sold, and the taxes, the difference of taxes. One of the great things I think that we allowed to happen throughout the pandemic was to allow the sale of alcohol with takeout and delivery. And the restaurants love that. So that's something that we want to continue. But there's such it's just all over the place. And some of the contracts that have been put in place a long time ago with the breweries and with the beer store and LCBO and all of these things together, they all need to be revisited. They all need to have something, take a look at them to see if there's something we can do better, to have a better level playing field, I think, more than anything else. So, I found that when I went to one place up in Blue Mountains, they have 2-3 different point of sale registers because they can't put them through the same one because they're taxed differently. It made no sense. So there are areas that we're certainly looking to make some changes. So we're listening. Always please provide us with suggestions. It's one thing to complain and say, this doesn't work, but we always look for suggestions too. I don't believe that the government has all the answers. People in the sectors, people on the ground, sometimes have some excellent suggestions on how we can make that improvement. So sometimes it's changing a regulation, sometimes it's getting rid of it completely because it's just so old and archaic and hinders our businesses. But sometimes, there are some great ideas that can come. So please feel free to provide those to me in any sector.
Thank you very much.
Perfect. And thank you for that reply, Nina. So just going through the chat here, not questions, but we do have a couple of comments from Jason, and I'll just read those aloud. So this was in regards to one of the earlier questions where he agrees that startups and those companies that went through restructuring at the wrong time did not qualify for many government programs. This has been highlighted previously, but I've not seen concrete solutions from our governments for companies caught in these situations. Given we are a year and a half into the pandemic, this is a gap in the programs. So I think he was just agreeing with an earlier statement there.
Note taken, yeah.
Fabulous. And I'm just scanning through here, but I believe that was the last question we had. If there's anyone else, please just raise your hand or throw your name in the chat. We've got a couple minutes left for another question if anyone has one. But I think.
Yeah, I think Mr. Kelly.
Sorry. Yeah, thank you so much.
On my screen, let me make it a little larger.
All right, absolutely. So about 3 years ago, we launched a local journalism platform called Kingstonist, and we have now grown our viewership and subscription to larger than the incumbents that previously were around for many decades. One area we've had difficulty winning businesses from our municipality for the publication of public zoning notices. Currently, only printed newspapers are applicable to win that business. And we would like to be able to provide the city of Kingston an option that is low cost and better reach with our platform Kingstonist than what is currently only allowed to be printed on. We have only one printed newspaper right now. It's the Kingston Standard. So we're just looking for a level playing field to be able to find a way to win some of that business from a local municipality, but they're not allowed to do so because we're only digital, and they need to have we'd like to be able to have an opportunity to win that business. So looking for some red tape reduction to allow for digital only journalism publications to win some local advertising business from our local municipality in order to share zoning notices. Currently, we can't do that. So be grateful for any help you can get to get that red tape cut, because we have way more publication reach than the old newspapers do.
Yeah, and it's like getting with the times, right? So, as we've seen throughout the pandemic, printing presses for many of them just closed or significantly reduced. If it was a daily, it became a weekly. If it was a weekly, it became a monthly. And getting that information out in a timely fashion is not always the best way through print. And I mean, I like print. I like to read my newspaper every morning, but at the same time, there are a lot of online digital platforms. And, just like we did with the Digital Main Street program, is to all of those businesses that couldn't open their stores, it allowed them to have that online presence. But now with, it's getting with the time. So let me look into if there's something that we need to change provincially to make that happen. I think that is something we can certainly look into.
Thank you.
If it is strictly the municipality that has that hindrance, we'll see if we can work with them and other municipalities together, because I think it's I'm not sure if that's been brought up in the past, but like I said, if we don't know about it, we can't make those changes. So I appreciate that. I'll certainly talk to the different ministries to see if we can find a way to come and make that regulation. It won't happen in this red tape bill, perhaps, but it may be at the committee stage. We may be able to make an amendment there if it's something that's fairly simple that we can change.
Thank you for your help. I appreciate it.
And in conversations with your municipality, are they willing to do that? Have you spoken to them?
No, the Planning Act, the Provincial Planning Act prevents them from doing digital only. They need to have a printed version, and so we are unable to participate. Even though we have 5 times more viewership, readership than the printed ones, we don't have that capacity to win that business from them. Which we're just trying to make sure the journalists get paid for the work they do, and one of the ways that our competitors are able to keep revenue coming in the door is by selling paper. But we're all digital. So that's
interesting. And you don't have to negate the print either, so you can do it too.
Exactly. Yeah, just have the option.
Yeah, no, that's great. No, I'll certainly pass that back to the Minister, Minister Clark, and Municipal Affairs and Housing.
Thank you.
Fabulous. Okay, last call for any questions. I think we've covered it all. I'm just standing here if anyone's got their hand up.
Yeah, and just to reiterate the website, ontario.ca/small business. There's a wealth of information in there. That we have what we call the Workplace PPE Supply Directory. For those of you, I know earlier on in the pandemic, people were struggling on where to find those masks, where to find those gloves and gowns, whatever it is that they need for their industry. So it was very difficult, but now we have a directory of where they can be purchased just to make it so much easier. We've got some great feedback for those that do that. And, I think there's always so much more. Just on the, on the vaccine certificates is, as you know, the digital version is coming out in the coming days. The initial testing on that is very simple. No data is to be kept, will be kept with the individual organizations. It all stays with us centrally. The app, the QR code, what you will see on there, it's just a iPhone to iPhone or smartphone to smartphone. You don't have to have purchased new technology, new iPads or anything like that. It is very simple. That was the whole intent, so we can make it very easily and streamline people as they're coming through the doors, whether it's a restaurant or something else. Now it is a little more time consuming because you're looking at a piece of paper, you're looking for that second dose. This will already have that information. And if you're looking at that information, it doesn't have everyone's full date of birth and it doesn't have the full health card number on it. So privacy, as we've heard from many people, was critical. We wanted to make sure that data stayed safe. One of the reasons we didn't go with some of the other provinces' ways of doing things, we know there was some off the shelf available, but Quebec, for example, theirs got hacked. Which meant a lot of data was then, became available to perhaps criminal organizations. You never know, right? So we wanted to make sure that your data stayed safe. So we did that. And I think, we heard from everyone that was so critical. But at the moment, the best part is that it is a temporary measure. It is something that we're doing as we get more and more people vaccinated. I do want to thank you for stepping up and encouraging people to get vaccinated. The people of Ontario are one of the leading jurisdictions in the world. And I think that's just all of us as a community wanting to try and get through this pandemic. But, you know, there's still a little bit more work to do. There's still some people unvaccinated. And, you know, as long as the numbers are stable, we're very pleased with our numbers right now. They are stable. Our hospital capacity is manageable. Our ICU capacity is manageable. Hopefully, you know, we are looking at reopening more of the borders, especially with the United States, which has had a lot more outbreaks than we've had. So we're just, you know, being very cautious there. But at the same time, you know, we're certainly looking to try and get all of our businesses fully open. The main thing is that we just cannot lock you down again. We can't close down again, which is why we're taking this cautious approach. So I do thank you all for your patience and you know, your resilience right through the pandemic. It's been so critical that we've tried to keep everyone as safe as possible, and which was most important, especially in our long-term care homes. And now that we started with the third booster doses for those vulnerable populations, we think that will help. And we're learning more about the virus, of course, each and every day. So, you know, thank you to all of you. Thanks for inviting me today. It's been great to meet you all. And feel free, my office is open. Feel free to reach out anytime.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much. And thanks everyone for engaging in today's discussion. Again, if you have any follow-up questions or comments, you can always email policy@kingstonchamber.ca. And to those that I promised a introduction to, I will be happy to do that shortly after this call. I would once again like to thank Nina Tangri, Associate Minister of Small Business and Red Tape Reduction, for participating and speaking with our members today. And of course, our title sponsor, Hydro One, for giving our members an opportunity to have their voices heard. And once again, thank you to our partner sponsor, St. Lawrence College, for their support. So we look forward to seeing you all at our next ministerial roundtable. Thank you, everyone, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.